Hola Community, welcome to Blender Today Live, episode 282. We have 1 week left for Blender 5.2 LTS. We have so many news today. If you look at the title of this episode, it's all over the place because there are new things even on empties, on rigging, the outliner, the compositor, the Alembic, IO. What else? Like all over the place. So I couldn't pick a single title. Physics, but who cares about physics, right? No, yeah, I know many people do. How are you doing? I'm Pablo Vazquez. I never introduced myself. Just I'm Pablo, by the way. Let's see what is new in Blender. By the way, do you see a new UI? Yeah, I mentioned someone in the chat. There's mentioning. I'm experimenting with this thing. It's a way for me to change topics for you to see even after the fact when this goes live on YouTube, when it goes, you can actually look at a glance to see which topic I'm covering, but also it will eventually, hopefully if this works, give me a list of chapters that I can just copy paste into the YouTube description and then have them. Because that's always a pain in the... I don't know if you ever uploaded videos to YouTube, but it's a lot of work to find the timing and write it. Anyway, we have AI for so many things nowadays. AI slop for shorts and things, and they don't have a way to find the titles of a section. You know what we do have? We have a new Blender release that happened last week. Blender 5.1.2 came out. Yep, the second corrective release of Blender 5.1 wasn't planned, but there was a need for it. There was 12 bug reports. Some of them were really bad, like crashes on certain systems. So the team was like, okay, might as well release a new version. So if you go to blender.org, you'll see that the latest release at the moment is 5.1.2, released on May 19th. It only contains 12 bug fixes. So if you want to know exactly what happened, what changed, you can go to the release notes in developer docs 5.1 and then corrective releases down here. You will see the list of 12 issues. Nothing really big. If you haven't had any issues before, that's fine. All right, next. We also have some news regarding the Blender platforms. You know, Blender tries to be as open source as possible, not Blender the software, but also the foundation, everything really, even the people here. One of the platforms that Blender maintains, you know, is the YouTube platform, but also, I don't know if you knew, Blender also has a open source YouTube, which is video.blender.org. Video.blender.org. It's a mirror basically of all the Blender things going on, all the videos, the conference, pretty much everything that is on the YouTube channels. So these also the Blender developers and pretty much everything, including a new update. And it's also federated, and you know, this is PeerTube, so it's a server that Blender maintains for PeerTube, using PeerTube as the platform, but it's federated, so it should be in other places as well. All these videos should be reachable in other PeerTube instances as well. Federation. Okay, next we do have a new video on Singularity, on the making of Singularity, which is super nice. It's if you have watched Singularity before, this is a good way to... You know, spoilers though, so don't watch it if you haven't watched Singularity. Go spend 6 minutes in there and then 17 minutes on this one afterwards. Super nice. So I'm gonna share it with you on let's see how YouTube likes me to share PeerTube videos with you. Let's see. Okay, let's see. What else is new? That's it. I think let's get to it, because today there is like 77 changes that I need to address here. So let's go one by one. Let's start with A for Alembic. Yeah, Alembic. So we have the first change. Oh, last episode I mentioned there was a new update on Alembic to support camera visibility without animation, I take that back. Animation is now supported via F-curves on camera visibility in Alembic, when importing Alembic. So that's it. So actually it solves some issues from 9 years ago. Wow. So pretty nice to see Alembic used there, because it's what the industry is using. You know, everybody praises that says that the future is USD, but in real life people use a lot Alembic. Okay, next. That's it. So this is for 5.2, so it's good to see the 5.2 is getting all of it together. Then the next section, that's it for Alembic. So let's talk about animation. In animation, there's a bunch of changes actually. One, this is mostly a PSA, it's a change in the default of the preference to insert keyframes only on available keyframes, curves. So this is a change that was discussed in the animation rigging module meeting, which anybody can attend, by the way, if you want to get involved. This, yeah, it's a change to the default. So if you notice something different, this might be it. Only insert keyframes on already existing curves, channels. Next, Wayne added a redo panel when adding a bone. So when adding individual bones, now you have some settings in the bottom left of the editor, the viewport, where you can set the name, space, alignment right there as you add it, length, and if it's gonna deform or not. So the UI might look slightly different because now it says deform, but that's it. This is awesome. Thank you, Wayne, for adding this to Blender. Wayne from CG Cookie. And Jonathan Lampold is also working on Blender stuff. So now we have CG Cookie helping not only for making training and feature videos, but also actual code. So nice. Okay, let's. Make it explicit that allow negative frames can cause issues. Yes, so allow negative frames is a setting that it's in Blender for a while. It allows you to basically scroll back and forth between, let's look at it in Blender actually. How's the chat, by the way? Are there any bots already? Any spam? Any fun stuff going on there? I'll show you here. We're in the interface, no, animation, and then in animation, advanced. This setting, allow negative frames, was elsewhere. I don't remember exactly where. I think it was somewhere in timeline, but now it's in its own sub panel because it's something you wouldn't change that much. And then it has this thing that tells you, hey, if you really want to enable this, sure, but it can cause issues with audio playback and exporters. So it's a warning, nothing really changed. Let's see. So there are some bots. 3 bots. Beep bop, beep bop. Please don't get a BlenderToday communities. Nah, that's... Well, we are basically not getting rid of it because it's not... it's really old, our null website to update. Remove Anthropic and stop selling our data, says Mywus. Which data? Blender doesn't know anything about you. Really. Blender doesn't track you, doesn't anything. The only thing that Blender has to connect to the internet by default is the extensions, which only checks for extensions. It's a JSON somewhere on a server that it's read only. It doesn't write anything, doesn't know anything about you. It just knows that, hey, somebody is asking which extensions are available. So that comment does not apply. Next. Implement transformable API. Well. This is a under the hood change that has a lot of potential because it's an under the hood change. It's an API to have generic API to transform stuff, right? Bones, but also objects, which means that the tools that you're currently using for setting like as you have two poses and you have one of those slider controllers, for example, to set which kind of the pose you want, which end of the pose. Well, that it's only available for bones, but with this it could be extended to work on objects or anything really, which means is this related to joint rigging or isn't? Because sounds like it is. Pretty interesting. So yeah, basically many of the tools for animation will be available for objects. Let's see. Local. Oh wow, graph editor. Yeah, we do have news all over the place. A graph editor has now local view, the same shortcut / and allows you to preview. Let's see it in action. Come on, how often do we get news in the graph editor? So this one, thanks to Pratik, we go to the graph editor, we got a keyframe, and now let's see, I have this awesome curve, and I can press, and I have other curves, right? So we can move this around, and let's say I press /, boom. Oh, it even animates. So it's smooth animate. That's cool. So now it's a local view. Ooh. Okay, this says local view. Yeah, I mean, we do that local. And now it says local view, but it's behind. It can be hard to see. Where else would we put it though? In the channels list? Also, maybe? Yeah, that's a good question. I didn't think about this. Because it can be a bit strange to something to think about. I think it is fine for now. Is it fine for you? I like when things are very obvious. Next, thank you Pratik about this. And another one by Pratik. This is a design task that I made long time ago. Just hoping one day somebody would pick it up. This I was working with the F-curves modifiers. There was a new modifier, so I was adjusting them, and I noticed that when there are some new modifiers that are only supported at specific places, even not so new modifiers that only work on specific places in the stack. So first or last, like for mesh modifiers. Well, for example, the cycles and the smooth modifiers only work when they are first in the stack. So this feature, this change, this improvement makes it so if the modifier is not where it should be, the thing will be full red and you should tell at a glance. Then you expand it and you do get a text that says modifier disable. Why does it say that? That's okay, maybe there's things we can improve. So let's see. Add modifier, cycles, add modifier, built-in, so cycles, I put it down. Modifier disabled because it's not first in the stack. You see, I didn't review this. If I would have reviewed this, I would have voted or tried to come up with a way shorter phrase here, like a sentence, because usually the default size doesn't fit it, and we should try always to fit it there. So you don't need to say because. You can say like modifier must be first in the stack, period. So modifier must be first, so it would be like this long and it would totally fit. I will get this. So when in 5. Oh, Pratik is here. Oh no, I didn't see him. Okay, anyway, let's see. Let's move on. I'm gonna give this feedback. So in 5.2, when you try this feature, hopefully it's gonna be shorter. What else? What else? Current frame in motion pads. Well, motion pads are a feature that really it's looking for. It needs to be improved, right? We all know that. But there was a mode in motion pads that it looked broken. It was kind of broken, so it has been removed. There was a mode in the these paths that basically this, you had the motion path and then you move a bone and it will be connected to that, like pulling it down, and it just didn't make any sense because it's not the final form. So now it doesn't have that mode anymore because it's not, it didn't work. So just a heads up. And the last change in the animation related changes, allow select key by type in the graph editor. We've seen this feature in the previous episode, I think. Now it's, I think it was in the key in the dope sheet, and now in the graph editor. Follow up to, yeah. This just modifies the poll to set the operator can also be called in the graph editor. Oh wow, even better when things work out of the box almost. Cool, awesome. Thank you, Christoph. Let's see what else. All right, it's done with the animation. A for assets. Okay, well, it's time to talk about online assets. This feature has finally graduated from the experimental planet school. So now if you don't have to do anything really, as long as you have internet enabled, then you go to, well, no, if you have internet enabled in system, allow online access, then that's it. In the asset libraries, now I have a bunch of asset libraries, but actually I don't need this anymore. I can delete the asset library. And in the asset browser, under essentials, I see things here. These are essentials that were not there before. So there is a new option that can help you to see if something is online or offline. It's in a filter, access, online and offline. You can say online only or offline only. So if you're on a plane, you cannot access to it, then you get offline only, and this is all that Blender ships with. And if you do online only, that means this gets you a list of things you can play with. And I already showed you this last week, last episode, I believe. Did I? Or was it in the Spanish live stream? Now I'm getting a bit confused with this. So let's see it in action. So I drag and drop, and no, I think I showed you because I was showing you, remember the settings, how to make something local, and I think so, yeah. I had to unpack something and then change the size, for example. So yeah, this is awesome. It's already there. It works. It's a mix of work from the community, from developers. It's amazing. It's crazy that we have all of this now shipping with Blender, including for the first time in forever, we now have, I think it was 2.8, right? That we had these the matcaps, the world HDRIs built in Blender. These are those that ship with Blender in like very small quantity, and people forever been asking, how can I render this, right? I have this beautiful background, I can actually see it, and I want to render this, and there was no way unless you go to Polyhaven, because it's come from Polyhaven. But now there is. Now you can actually just pick it up from here. It's a world, so you drag it in, you drop it, and in the world you can see scene world, and now you have it. Look at that, including the Blender original blend. Whoa, even there is a progress bar down here. This is new. So many things happening. There you go. So this is including the Blender Institute. This was Tom's office and this was our office, all in Blender forever. Online, you need to download it. That is awesome. I cannot wait for people to make their own assets, because this is online assets, the online essentials that ship with Blender. Well, they don't ship with Blender. The access to it ships with Blender. If you enable online access in Blender, you get to see them. But that's it. However, this also opens possibility for anybody to make your own asset, online assets, asset libraries. So super nice. Let's see what else we're gonna get from the community. That's it. That's all for assets, I think. which is a lot. Well, actually, I mean, there's many more changes. I'm not mentioning them here, but there's like progress bar, sorting things, like not, I don't mention them because they're part of the initial feature. The same with physics. I know people are expecting me to talk about physics. I know you're expecting, because we're gonna talk about it later, but basically, yeah, they're in Blender now, but they're experimental. Physics with geometry now, they're experimental, and that is illegal. Not illegal, it's just false hopes because I don't know if that's gonna make it into 5.2 or not. So even online assets, I didn't talk about that much until it's now here. Let's switch to BLI. Yeah, BLI. There is this is the part of Blender where there's sometimes optimizations, and this one in particular is pretty big. So parallel sort of large groups. It's very broad. What does it mean? It means that in some large groups, for example, 1 million points group, when merging points using the merge points node in geometry nodes, went from 80 milliseconds to 10 milliseconds to evaluate this. So pretty nice parallelization. Let's see. So that is all for BLI. There is build, there is cleanup stuff, there is color management. Okay, let's no. C4 Compositor. And Compositor, last episode was mostly about the Compositor, but this time there is plenty of things in the Compositor, but there is also in others. So some of them you already know, actually. So socket value inspection. So you can be an inspector of sockets. What does it mean? Tooltips, basically. Tooltips now are way more useful when using the Compositor. Something you're probably used to from geometry nodes, but now they're available in the Compositor. So you leave the mouse over and you get this tiny tooltip because the video is tiny and the nodes are big and it gets confusing. But you basically get a list of what is being passed on in that socket. So if it's for example, what kind of precision you have, what type of socket or information you're passing on, an image, a value, a single value, a list, yeah, what kind of transformation, identity, display data, so you get the actual size of what is being passed on or the original size. This is super nice for investigating what's going on with your scene, but I wish the screenshot was a bit bigger. Yeah, I mean, I could just show you too, right? But I'm afraid it's gonna get very long. And can I? Well, this is the render layer. If I had an image, then you'll probably see it. Let's move on to what else is new in the Compositor. Warning. The warning node. Not a warning to you, a warning node. This node that is it comes from geometry nodes. It's something that the assets creators mostly use to communicate things upwards or to a modifier, for example, where you can say like, hey, you shouldn't use this or that. You give instructions to users when using your assets. So this is now in the Compositor. The avoid superfluous copying of results. So performance improvements, similar to what we've seen last time, but this is when some cases when they contain a lot of metadata, they should be now faster, like images with lots of metadata. The switch node that was implemented not that long ago, a few versions ago for the Compositor, now has been replaced with its geometry nodes counter. The node gains a new type input, but that's it. Basically, the old one is still there. So if you have all files with this node, it's gonna still be there. I don't know if it gets replaced though. I don't think there is any versioning. Oh, there is versioning, so it will get replaced. Nice. Huh. So you don't have to do anything. But the old node is still around and it will be removed in a future version, probably Blender 6. let's 6 what's there. The stabilized 2D node. So this is one of those features that I wonder, like, where, like, when people ask me, hey, is there any new VFX feature coming? I use stabilized 2D a lot, and I'm like, I don't really know, because this is not really planned, but there's always improvements coming. And then there is commits like this, which in like 3, 4, 5 lines of code, less, because this is a replacement. So a few lines of code adds something that is super useful. The frame input socket to the stabilized 2D node. So you can do many more advanced tricks with this and adjustments on your stabilization from your movie clips data. So yeah, these are things that just happen to be, that show up as part of general improvements. But I was so surprised to look at that it was so simple to add. Nowadays, adding socket input seems to be very easy. So the default, when not connected, is going to be the scene frame. And that's it. Let's see. But maybe this gives you an idea of like, hey, I wish this node had an input for something. And then here you go. This is how you can do it. Use pixel units for various sockets. Yes, Quackaroni added the property pixel to many nodes that didn't have it. So sometimes you would see nodes like this, where you see like size 0. What is that? In Paint, size 0, size 1. 1 what? Now it tells you, hey, 0 pixels, 1 pixel. And sometimes it is obvious that it's pixels, but you know, it's better to have the PX there. So thank you, Quackaroni. And last but not least, expose default input type setting in the Compositor. Yes, the Compositor now has a default setting that allows you to set this is for assets making as well, mostly. So say you have this animated noise that has a frame input. Well, this is a node group, right? So in the node group, you can now set the default to be the number that you set, or scene frame. Super nice. So basically, when nothing is added, nothing is specified, this is how the node looks. No input. But yeah, it seems like they really trying to get assets for the Compositor, you know, really nice. And that's it for the Compositor. Let's switch to C4. One change, and mainly it's an improvement. Actually, it's a copy-paste improvement, but it's many improvements. So I just wanted to mention that if you had issues with copy-pasting, especially node groups, that you should have a look again, because this fixes several fixes. Several fixes. All right, C4 cycles. There is no new feature per se, but there is Intel and NVIDIA are adding things to cycles that make it sound like something cool is coming in the shape of denoisers. For example, this is by Christoph from Intel, adding denoising pass options for reflections, depth, and albedo. It is used by anything inside Blender. Not yet, however, this will be necessary for the future version of OpenImage Denoise, also known as the version of the OpenImage Denoise that has temporal stuff for dimension a long time, which makes denoising so much better for animation. Okay, because instead of making up the denoise for that one frame and then completely from scratch for the next frame, it's just like, looks, oh, this is what changed previously, so this is what it's just huge, the change. And this other change by Patrick from NVIDIA, also kind of related to denoisers in time. This one is support for motion vectors in the viewport. Using the debug mode in cycles, you can now preview in the viewport the motion pass for this, which again, No feature that's something that you're probably gonna use today, but it's funny how this is part of another PR, which is something that people are excited about. And the moment they read the word DLSS or Open Image Denoise, temporal denoising, then they get excited, and I can understand why. But also, hey, this is AI, so double standard. If you don't like some AI, you shouldn't like no AI. I know. Denoising. Blender has denoiser since 2.82, like the number of this episode. The AI denoiser for optics, I think it was 283 or 282 or 281. And then Open Image Denoise is also AI. And that's why it's so heavy. It's like 50 megabytes in Blender. But yeah. It's the, yeah, they call it the good AI. Come on. Double standard. You know? No, I know. There is good AI and there is bad AI, but the way it's trained, we never know. So let's switch topic maybe. Let's see what else new in Blender. Depth dependency, docs documentation. Oh, even today, even EEVEE got updates, improvements. 1.5 and 2 gigabyte shadow pool options. So Blender's, EEVEE's limits used to be 1 gigabyte for shadow pool options, but you know, graphics cards are getting big, scenes are getting big, people need more virtual shadow maps sizes. So if there is enough VRAM, this is gonna make it better to tweaking more lights, more shadows, bigger scenes, more complex scenes. Now you can go up to 2 gigabytes, or also 1.5. Nice. Let's see. More light probes. Plane on blended material. Yes, add support for light probe plane on blended material. This is something that used to be in EEVEE Legacy, or the one in 4.1. This implementation, unlike Legacy, does not do any ray tracing, even if ray tracing is enabled. It uses some heuristics when ray tracing is disabled. It now in 4.1, it now uses the new parallax amount from the planar light probe property. It fixes some issues and it makes some people happy, I bet. And these are the differences. So this is how it used to be. This is planar without parallax, how it broke, and now this one with parallax. So it's almost there, almost same as D3 and blended. So blended materials are useful. Again, that was something that people were complaining in the switch to EEVEE Next. Glad to see that fixed. Let's continue. Oh, speaking of, no wait, that's after. Well, let's talk about this dithering. We are talking about dithering. So in this change, this adds support for dithering material before well, let's look at the picture. This might be hard for you to see on live stream on YouTube, but let's see. Can you tell all the banding that's happening here? There is like a line here, a line here, here, here. Maybe here this is more obvious. It's hard to maybe here you see it. Anyway, this is now gone, so this should be completely smooth. So let's see. Okay, back. See the difference? Probably not with all the compression, but anyway, dithering. So banding gone. I see it near the shadows. Yeah, okay, so it is. Yes, dithering. Great. Awesome. You know what else is awesome? Camera light visibility. And actually, we get more visibility in EEVEE this week. We have a new option, which is already in cycles, which is the camera light visibility, when you can make something visible or not to the camera or for lights. That is amazing. So pretty welcome. Thank you, Legia Bao. And Miguel Pozo added another visibility toggle for raycast. So you can now specify if an object is going to be seen by the raycast node or not. And this is how it looks like. Ray visibility. raycast in object visibility settings. So nice. So nice, because this was already possible in other places. All right, what else is there? No, that's it for EEVEE. Let's talk about ffmpeg. This is mainly it's something that wasn't really used much, I think, because there has been improvements in performance for time code or time precision when seeking in files since 3.3. This makes it so the timecode files are really no longer needed, so this has been removed. If you miss them, or if there's something that you use them for, like you have some feedback, please make yourself loud, ask why, but this is gone. Let's see. Let's talk, okay, fixes, yeah, a bunch of fixes. Now let's talk about geometry nodes. There are 4 new nodes this week and a bunch of other changes. Let's start with the get attribute name node, names node, multiple. This one was added by Cartesian Caramel. This PR adds the get attribute names node to retrieve an attribute names as a list of strings. So something like this, you get an attribute names, and then you can preview it in the spreadsheet editor. Super nice. You can filter by domain or data type. Neat. And nice. So cool. Thank you, Cartesian Caramel. Next one, David Morman added a reverse string node. So you can do hello world into drlor ole. Now I should put the upside down exclamation mark, the one we use in Spanish. Kidding. Next, a new node by Jack Luke, get geometry component node. It's similar to the get bundle item. So get geometry component, you specify a component. You can remove it. It has an input to remove, and then it gives you the geometry, what the component is, and if it exists or not. So it gets you the geometry already processed. Pretty nice. Similar nodes for comparison. Get bundle item, get geometry bundle, get named grid. So super nice. So many nodes. I'm already, I mean, we still have 1 more week of geometry nodes, of alpha of 5.2. I'm really hoping they don't add anything else to 5.2. Focus on 5.3 because the list is huge and I'm dreading making the release notes this time. Luckily, we're gonna get some help. We have Anastasia now from the communication team, so hopefully it's gonna be a bit easier. We still don't have a splash screen, by the way, just letting you know, in case you're wondering. Next, another node, this time by Hans, filter list node. So to go together with the new list sockets and list nodes, there is this new node that lets you filter by type. So gives you give it a list, a selection, boolean, and gives you a selection and inverted lists. That's it. What else? Should it be called filter by type? Are there other kind of filters? Nah, I don't really. I'm so lost with all this geometry node stuff lately. And they keep adding more things, such as increase node widths to fit the name. Okay, now this is a quality of life. This just makes it so some nodes are going to be slightly thicker to be to fit the name at the different zoom levels. It's a small thing. The collection color is going to be shown in the viewer node now. It's a small thing, but you may have noticed I think I mentioned a couple weeks ago that the data block are now shown in the viewer. So if you connect any data block to the viewer, you'll see the data block name. In the case of collection, if they have a color, it will show the color. And another quality of life improvement by Colin added. So when you get a bone, an error in a, when you get a bone, well, maybe that too. When you get a error in the bone info node, Blender will now tell you the name of the bone. So you know which bone is giving you trouble in this layout, for example. Find your bones. Let's see. What else? Well, let's address the elephant in the room. That is a new experimental, very experimental, but people are already doing crazy things. I should have looked up on Twitter, social media, whether people B3D, GeoNodes, maybe GeoNodes or geometry nodes, like with physics and stuff. Like, no, this is there must be people doing physics stuff. I don't know. If you have a link to crazy things, I should have found this earlier, but there's like people doing clothes and things breaking and like Metin has it, or well, Cartesian caramel probably. No, I know, I've seen the live streams going on, and yeah, tearing the fabric of space. You know, this is why you cannot give physics to people, because they start breaking space. So yeah, let's see. What else? Well, anyway, yeah, physics are a thing, but they're experimental. And if you actually look at the list of changes here, it's like what they added it over here, right? And then they change the names of things, they rename bundle, they update the assets, they change. It's experimental, right? So they keep changing things. So that's why I'm not gonna share them, but just know that they're there and they're alpha. So they're only available in the daily builds of Blender 5.2 or 5.3 when that happens next week. Next week, that's kind of crazy already. Gee. Okay, let's what else? Performance topology mapping instead of hash set in solver. Okay, but this is a solver related thing. But anyway, cloth test faster, but again, it's experimental, so hopefully we're gonna get even faster, although it seems to be pretty fast from what people are showing online. What else? Unify. Yeah, this is the title says unify string pattern inputs, but it actually adds things. There is a bunch of nodes. The transfer attributes, get nested bundle, path nodes. They now get a new input where you can specify the string pattern mode, exact or wildcard. So yeah, remove name attribute, transfer attributes, and get nested bundle paths. Now they all have this wildcard or exact. And last but not least, Luke added the capture attribute node. No, selection to the actual. Well, this has been around for a while. No, selection. You can now specify a field boolean to set a list of things that are gonna be captured or not, where it's gonna be captured. And that's it, right? No, transfer attribute node also has been improved. I thought this was related to the solver, but so I didn't mention it. But yeah, this change requires higher cloth dynamic. Okay, never mind. So yeah, next let's talk about what is the next change in Ghost. You know that Blender has a Ghost? Ghost is a thing in Blender, a spooky acronym in Blender that stands for Generic Handy Operating System Toolkit. It's a layer that Blender has to talk to the operating system. So instead of, say you have a feature that only works on Linux and another one on Windows and then on Mac differently. So instead of spreading all over the Blender code, if Mac, if Linux is, you just use this ghost interface and then toolkit, and then all the if def are in one place. Although apparently it's not always put in place, but just so you know, when I say Ghost Wayland or Ghost Coco, Coco is for macOS. Ghost Wayland is for Wayland in only Linux, X11 and Win32. Why am I mentioning this? Because there's one change for Coco for macOS, that high DPI cursors are gonna show properly apparently now, so no longer blurry or downscaled. So if you're using high DPI, cursors should, custom cursors at least, should look good. Nice. Okay, what else is new? G for GPU, just a small mention that it's not too small when you actually look at the numbers. Speed up movie clip playback by not doing tile image display in OpenGL. So basically, by removing old code that was made for in who knows how long. Well, it's movie clip, so it was probably in the early 2010s. Yeah, 2015, maybe 20. When the movie clip is when 2.662, when Tears of Steel came out. It's now faster. So playback of already cached 4K resolution EXR image sequences went from 42 milliseconds to 17 to draw the frame. So faster playback. Nice. Okay, next. Pencil, not much. Some assets got updated, but just basically synced with what's already there. Internationalization, and then I for image. Yes. So, well, one an actual feature, and the other one is also a feature. You know, software preservation, just game preservations, is important. Blender still saves and loads SGI iris format. If you don't know what is that, it's a format that came out 42 years ago. No, I think the format is later. Yeah, Silicon Graphics image. So that was released. The initial release was 31 years ago, and the last release was 30 years ago. So it had a great year, and it was used a lot back then. And Blender, it's among those software that still supports it. GIMP also does, I think, and that's why it's important for open source to support it. However, Blender had its own implementation of how to deal with this. And for a while now, Blender has a library that takes care of loading and saving formats, images in specific formats, and which is called OpenImage.io. This means that we can now delete 900 lines of code, custom code, and get the library to handle SGI iris format. Anything different? Yes. So black and white images now use the luminance weights from OpenColor.io, and that's it. The format gains the ability to write to memory and not just to disk. Hey, nice. Okay, now for the actual feature. Auto, wow, this is huge too. Have you ever been painting textures? You had your Mona Lisa texture there, and Blender didn't save. You were thinking like, oh, Blender has autosave, right? So it must be saving it for me. I'm sorry to tell you that it didn't, unless you were using 5.2 from 5 days ago. This change adds autosave support for images in Texture Paint. This alone is huge. So thank you, Sean Kim, for working on this. This requires two main changes. So you need to pack all edited and editable images and allow autosave to function when the most recent step is an image undo step. Okay. So yeah, pretty big change. So nice. This will save lives one day. Well, it would have saved some lives already, that I know. Let's see. Let's go to I for IO. Well, this change by Brecht, it's pretty large. It goes all over mesh validation in Blender. It adds test, and it's just all over the place, because it basically works with mesh validation, which is applied all over the place for OBJ import, USD, FBX imports, and things that didn't work before should work, or they shouldn't crash, or they should be more in line with Blender, so it gives you more valid meshes. So if you had issues with that, try again. And the STL export in Blender now has a new option to choose what do you want to export, if viewport or render settings. So it will run, I think, what was the default before? I don't know. But now you can already choose, similar to what you can do in USD, Alembic, and OBJ export as well. Super nice. I think it was render before. Now you can choose. Cool. Neat. 3D printers rejoice. Exactly. Looking at the chat here. Okay, what else? M for modeling. Loop tools keeps being less and less relevant because this operator called space evenly, it's now part of Blender. No longer needs to be in loop tools. This is an implementation. It's not the same one-to-one. It should be better fixed, and it's also in C++, so it is should be more performant and allows you to split evenly. that's all it does. Very descriptive naming. Let's play. So you set parallel loops or not. You can set the factor and lock to an axis as well, and space evenly. I don't know if you notice the difference here, with and without. So if you add very uneven spacing, especially on a grid, I mean this example is pretty obvious, but if you add a grid, and then this will fix it. So cool. The most downloaded extension on the platform. So yeah, awesome. Good to see it becoming core, and good to see people in the chat happy about it, and that it should become that is internal, because some people were saying like, don't waste your time doing that because the add-on already exists. Yeah, but the add-on is an add-on. It can break anytime. It's not going to be as performant. It's not going to be as integrated, and it's still an add-on. You need internet access to install it. It's not great. Okay, let's move on. N. So N for nodes. A few changes and improvements. One, the value to string and the string to value nodes now get a new base input that allows you to give it a base. So you can, I think there is an example here. Yeah, so you can do things like this. You can add padding, binary, right? Base 2, this value, and then it makes it into a string. Or in this case, a value to a string, and then you just add it. 618, add 10, so that's padding to the left side. Nice. Or like this crazy setup to convert a value to hexadecimal for colors. Interesting. Nice. Okay, let's see. Oh, this is amazing. Okay, everyone, pay attention. This change, it's by a community member, Endor, and makes editing of socket names in nodes so much easier. So the actually renaming of sockets was already a thing, right? But there were issues. And what I like about this is that it not only allows you to edit the socket name, which was already possible in some cases, and I think Jack added that, but now it also introduced editing of text from the right, like instead of left to right, right to left. So you type and the string fills in the opposite direction, which makes a lot of sense when editing inputs. And what's great is that it also works in other places, like regular text fields. That's so nice. But yeah, not only that, however, because it also allows you to control click to edit in many, many more places, such as group input, group output, closure, evaluate closure, and filter list. One that cannot be renamed is index switch. Okay. And the previous one that could be renamed are the ones in this list. So cool. So nice. This will make life so much easier. Let's see. Thank you, Ender. Next. This is related to what we saw already, right? Like scene frame node default input type. This has a new node default input that yields the scene time. Yeah, I think we already seen this, but this is the general implementation. The other one was for the compositor, so no need to mention it again. Oh, another quality of life improvement, I think. We have, let's see, simplify adding socket types directly in Blender. So you know how sometimes you get this socket that is gray that you can just drag and drop, or well, drag and drop into it, and it will make a socket. You will now be able to just click a plus in that socket, and will bring up a little pop-up where you can fill in the name, the type, and edit in place without actually having to go into the sidebar. And so handy. So you don't even need the sidebar anymore. So nice. Why is it so long though? Because maybe that's the default size width for us. Yeah, it just looks ridiculous. It'd be too long. No? How long is gonna be your socket name? Could be a bit shorter. That's awesome. So nice. Let's see. What else is new? Show single line by yeah, the string input node now shows you one line by default. It used to be like here on the left, and now it will be like the one on the right. So it's a bit more compact. Most of the time you probably want a short string anyway, but if you need a longer string, you can just click drag to expose more of this, which is so nice, so handy. So, you know, noise if you want it. And last in the nodes section, there is a bunch of new nodes. Well, 2 to be precise. That's a bunch. How much is a bunch? More than 1? 3D to screen space and screen space to 3D. 2 new node assets. Wait, no, there is 4 node assets. So the title is not correct. Transform and project. Project with depth. And the 2 that I mentioned are new nodes that allow you to do something like this. Let's see. It's hard to see because I think, okay, so let's try to inspect here. So when the video starts, you get these kind of sunbeams from the scene, right? Coming from somewhere. And there is a object info connected to screen space that allows you to set the sun position of the sunbeams to be something else. Say you want it to be a different object in this case. So that you can do now. You get the object info node. You pick an object, like in this case the empty, and then this will be used, transformed to screen space, and then to sun position. This is the compositor, by the way. This is getting 3D data into screen space data, which is awesome. And yeah, maybe the demo would have worked better if the empty was moved around. I think maybe we can do that for the release notes, because yeah, it's pretty neat actually that you can do this conversion. But also, actually, this is better because it shows that it's fixed in place when you move up and down. So cool. So nice. Compositor. It's really getting to another level in all these releases. Like I thought it was already good in 4.5 and then 5 and 5.1 and 5.2. Okay, let's move on to O4 object. Okay. I will need you to sit down. I could sit down too. How often do we see new features in empties? An empty got a new feature. Empties by definition are, you know, just a transformed in space. They have a shape, they have a display size, but that's it. They can have an image, that's it. Until now. Empties can now have, you guessed it, geometry nodes. Because if you think about it, you know, if you add a mesh and you convert it to a curve, then what's there? If you remove all points inside of a mesh, then what's there? It's crazy, really crazy. So let's see it in action. It's just it's a bit funny. Like you add an empty, right? Like anything, like let's do plain access, and then suddenly you have a new tab, modifiers, which was never there before, and now you can add a bunch of modifier. Actually, I mean they're all the ones that support the geometry nodes, right? So if you do an array, you can do an array of empties, which you cannot see, of course. You can add, what else? Instance, other things, models, nature. Oh no, this is this is something from an asset library that I have, probably Polyhaven. But yeah, I have utilities, guides, effort generation. So you basically can create things, right? Let's see, like, well, you can add geometry nodes, and then you get access to geometry there. So you can do geometry nodes, and there is no geometry input. That's the one thing, right? So you need to add some geometry, I guess. So let's do a sphere, right? Icosphere, the best kind of sphere. And that's it. So now you have a sphere that is an empty that you cannot access many of the, like, you know, shape keys, you have vertex group, but maybe you don't need them. That's the thing. You don't have attributes on meshes that you can see here at a glance. So there are limitations, but I guess it has its use cases. Empties on empties. Crazy. Crazy. So what else can we do with empties? Okay, next, modifiers on lamps, on lights, right? So you can array lights, but I guess you can, right? You just add a, you probably just can. I have geometry light. Why can't I have a light? And it works apparently, like it shows that there is a light there. And then so ridiculous. At some point we're just gonna need a new object type that it's, or maybe a node that sets the object type, right? Because objects by default have a lot of important things, like grease pens. You'll have, you know, its own materials, its own layers. Curves have their own settings. They all have, I don't know, living in a crazy world. Empties have modifiers. Crazy. Okay, let's switch topics. We have a few more, and let's switch to O4 outliner. Yeah, the outliner has new features. One, a small one, and a big one. The small one is a small change in the UI. So what used to be the filter popover here on the left, it was more than filters, right? Like there's things here like search options that they are more than filters. So it didn't make sense to just show that. So the filter icon was removed, and these options were added into panels, so you can collapse them if you don't use them. And there is search, filters, and nothing had really changed other than this aspect that you can now collapse them. That's it. Search even shouldn't be here. Search should probably be as part of the search itself with a drop down, or, but at least this is a small change. And the big change is that you can now see shape keys in the outliner. That's so nice. So in main, if an object, object has shape keys, we don't see them. Not anymore. Now you can access them and you can actually filter through them. Let's see if that works. I haven't. No, I tried it. I'm just messing with you here. So you have a bunch of keys here, and then I go to shape keys, and then papam. And can I do it the other way around? Yes. So I don't even need that open anymore. I can just switch between them. I cannot see the values, so you still want to have some kind of access if you want to edit the values. Let's say I pin it's so low, so now I can there is a I found a bug. Hey Patrick, are you here? I found a bug. The thing when the list updates when I click on it in the tree view, but it doesn't update when I click on it in the that's why the item is still selected, but there is another I found an issue. So the star, the star is maybe messing with it. That's why we're still on alpha, people. That's why. Let's switch topics. Outliner, that was it. Python refactors are for render. And I said that this episode is full of things because even the principal BSDF node have new features. There's two, there is a new mode, Boolean setting that is called thin wall, thin glass and thin surface. So this is just a toggle that you toggle it once, and it makes your material behave according to the OpenPVR specs, something like this, where you have, for example, the fuzz layer, coat, and then you have your regular material, right? Metal, translucent, soft surface, etc. If you mark something as thin film, this material will be treated as it has these layers and then the same layers but mirror, basically on the other way, on the other direction, like something that is thin film, that is double-sided. You could almost say that. But yeah, thin glass. You can read more about how it's computed, and then there is thin soft surface. How you would do for something like leaves, for example. So nice. So even the principal BSDF has new features. So cool. Tint looks different. And it works apparently on cycles and EEVEE. Nice. All right. More features are for rigging. We don't see many rigging features often, but there is one this week that allows you to choose head or tail when parenting an object to a bone. So this is a new slider that lets you specify. Let's see here the video. Let me see if we get to see it down there. But once you map something, you parent it to a bone, select the bone, and then there is this slider that allows you to go head or tails. So nice. I think for this kind of hard surface, kind of mechanical rigging, it's pretty handy. So thank you, Colin, for working on it. I think this release is tackling pretty much everything, every area. Well, maybe not sculpt so much. Let's go another one. S for shaders. Cartesian Caramel again added a new node called Scene Time. This node is already available in other places, but now has made its way into shader node trees. The goal is for parity with the compositor and geometry nodes. As recommended by Brecht, this also adds a new scene attributes class owned by scene. That wasn't there, so now we can have more scene stuff. Or can we? In the render level. What else would you get from the scene that you think it would be nice to have? Okay, next. Wow, even texture paint has new features. Well, improvements in performance. 3D brush is also an experimental feature for a while, but you know, so let's mention it because it's been around for a while and it's now faster. So about 50% faster on a low poly, and on high poly meshes, a bit less, 11%, not bad either, to use the 3D brush. Nice to see work in the 3D brush. All right, time to talk about UI. User interface has a number of changes, not as many as usual, but I'll take them. Pratik added a new, well, not new, it's an existing region to, it's a new region to an existing part of Blender. So let me explain. In this sequencer, in the video sequencer, for example, we have the, you have the objects, you have your preview, you have your scene, right? It's amazing. Awesome. I have this beautiful image here. Okay. This timeline shows me the whole sequence, right? Sometimes you are zoomed in, and sometimes it's pretty handy to be able to have a scrubbing region that is, you know, that is one-to-one with the full scene. For that, there is a new option in the preview called playback controls, which we already have. Eventually, for 5.2, this will be how Blender, the sequencer looks. These playback buttons are going to be here and are going to be hidden, not removed, hidden from here in the bottom. So you can still bring them back if you want. However, the one in here in the preview is super nice because you can enable scrubbing region, which is this that I just mentioned. So from here you can go through the entire sequence, all your edit, without jumping, without having to zoom out and jump back and forth between your scene. So it is super nice. However, this is just the tip of the iceberg because this feature is not, I mean, it was added as part of a larger project, which is called the Media Bin / Media Preview, which I think I mentioned this here in the past. Imagine something like, well, this is a preview for the whole sequence, but this is, no. Let's see if I can hear Media Bin project. So in the Media Bin project, we do have some pictures that have them both side by side. Does it? No, we don't. That would make it easier to sell this feature. So the Media Bin is this place where you can, it's not there yet, eventually, where you can organize your media, right? You can set in and outs, you can drag and drop them into your scene. But to set the in and outs, instead of just seeing it in the, here, and just blindly picking a part of your scene in the sidebar, it would be nice to have something like the media preview, which has its own dedicated task and allows you to, you drag a preview and then you can have in and outs, you can drag and drop from here, and you can say, if you have a 2-hour movie, you can pick 10 seconds to just drag them into your scene. So this scrubbing region for the media preview would show you the media only range, whereas the one that got added in Blender would show you the total one. So imagine something like you have this split in two, and you can have playback buttons for your preview here and here for your entire timeline, and that is the goal. So this looks a bit out of like, why was it even implemented? Well, that's why. I hope I made it a bit clear, or maybe I made it more confusing. Let me know in the comments wherever they show up. Next, thank you, Pratik. Next, also by Pratik, quality of life. You can now navigate with the arrow keys inside tree views. So say, what is a tree view? Well, we have shape keys. We have layers. Let's look at layers for Grease Pencil. So Grease Pencil have layers and also have layer groups that you can put things into, no? And many nested even. So you can now use your keyboard to go up and left or right to collapse things. This wasn't the case before, and now works. So thank you, Pratik, for implementing it. So nice. And there's more coming too. Let's see. Tiny one, icon. There was a field that was missing an icon. This was in the, well, let's look at it here. So in the UV editor, when editing something that has UVs, there is this field that it was just a text field without any indicator. But this is the name of the layer of your object. An object can have multiple UV layers. Well, this is it. So now it has an icon. Small thing, but it didn't really tell you much before. Then text boxes. So what we saw before, the text box in the string node, in the geometry nodes, and a few other places, has seen a few quality of life improvements. Now they can have the value in the tooltips, pretty handy as well. So you basically can see at a glance when it doesn't fit in your, I wonder how big tooltips can get. When it doesn't fit in the view, you can leave the mouse over and you won't see it. But also now you can use shift click to extend the selection inside of the box. So for example, you can do shift click even in multiple lines and it would select what you would expect basically. So it works as you would expect it basically. You can resize them down to one single line, just like we saw in the string node. It was one of the reasons actually why we wanted to allow collapsing into that size. And that's it. That's it. The last one is also an improvement that it's pretty obvious once you see it. It's like, of course, the selection should match what is visible. And U for UV. Every section almost this week. Add island support to select overlap. Yeah, now you can select overlap and limit the operation per island. So nice. Thank you, Ethan. Also making, I mean, I call everything a quality of life, but this really makes your life qualitier. Okay, let's talk about video sequencer. Bunch of changes. One, speaking of bunches, have you ever had a video that has multiple video or audio tracks? It happens. I once made a DVD with training that had the audio in Spanish and in English, and it was one video, a MKV file with two OGG tracks, and Blender wouldn't support it, and now it does. So I only had to wait a few years, and now it supports it. Multiple video and multiple audio streams when you drag and drop a video into the sequencer. So nice. Thank you, John. The next one by 1P2D. This one, I don't know how we didn't have this before. It's like, it's so essential for using scenes. But basically, it doesn't look like much. Maybe it doesn't look like much, but when you add a new scene, or when you select the scene, now you can actually specify the view layer, which is huge. Like, how can I never noticed, but view layers are the way to organize your scene, especially if you do compositing, right? Because it's how you filter which collections visibility are available. And yeah, now they were never exposed to the sequencer scene strips. Now they are. So thank you, 1P2D. Next, support rotation socket in the compositor modifier. Nice. Rotation socket. By Chris Ivana. Thank you, Chris. And last but not least, Folk added the modifiers to the empties, by the way. And now he also added to the sequencer Compositor modifier assets, which means that you can now have the, well, actually you can already see it because I have a bunch of assets that I will be able, yes, you can see them here. I have the regular built-in ones, right? They have an icon. And then we have camera and lens, chromatic aberration, film grain, like all the ones that you know and love from other parts of Blender, they're now here. Including an exposure visualization. Interesting. Can I, if I add here and then exposure visualization, like zebra stripes or not? Oh, it didn't work. Huh, why it didn't work? Huh? Okay, never mind then. Does it work on the scene? No. Can I add a compositor? Yes. And can I... Why? Maybe it's not supported? I should see an error, no? Chromatic aberration works. Creative ones? Wow, no, they don't. Do we... Why? Probably to the... Why am I doing wrong? In life. Okay, info. Nope, no complaints. Alpha, I guess. I don't know. Yeah, alpha. I mean, Blender alpha. So, interesting. Yeah. So, it's still work in progress. So, I will let the developers know. Maybe focus in the chat. He's usually here. So, Pablo found a bug. Yeah, Pablo found many bugs and crashes sometimes. But, you know, this is the job as a Blender employee. It's your job to use the latest and greatest Blender around. So let's go to blender.community. Let's see if any good Samaritan made a... Oh yeah, there's some spam in there already. Let's go to this change. Some questions here by Nick Berkeley even. Let's see. So there's some new things. Okay, so I can maybe edit your... Yeah, maybe I can edit this and I can copy paste your thing so everybody has access to the things that I've been sharing, and then I can save it. Nice. Okay, so thank you so much for making the post and the thread here. Let me go full screen. And let's scroll all the way down. How many questions do we have? Do they fit in one screen? Yeah, 8 comments. Yes. So start from the bottom. The first one. Hi, Pablo. Sorry if you answered this already, but dropping a comment anyway. Any cool updates to USD import export coming soon? We would love to see USD referencing soon. That's like, yeah, everybody's... It's like the main thing that people are hoping for. It's not there yet. Seems like it may be related to Collection IO project on the Blender roadmap. I hope. I can't confirm, but if you look at the roadmap in code.blender.org roadmap, or in any development page, basically, and if you, I think it's over here, collection import. So maybe that's one of the showstoppers that it's waiting for it. I'm not sure actually, to be honest. But interesting. But yeah, you can drop by the developer channels. I don't think they would mind that. Oh, by the way, I need to switch to Q&A. That otherwise I would miss this. I didn't get the timing right. From day one. Next, Freeway80 says, hello, hola Pablo. I was wondering, will geometry nodes based modifiers allow modifications on instances eventually? For example, the legacy array modifiers let you edit the mesh from any instance. No. And the geometry overlays appear on all elements as normal. Oh, yeah. With the new GN-based array, if you activate on cage, your overlays straight up disappear. Yes. Sounds like a limitation, right? You will have to make things real All unit knows allow modifications on instances. No, it sounds like a limitation of the system itself, no? Can't confirm. I'm sorry. So the Q&A section, and I don't know any answers. Again, you can drop by the chat, the forums, or on DevTalk even to ask this kind of questions, or I can try to get an answer and reply it. But yeah, no, I'm sorry, I don't know. But it sounds like something you wouldn't, the system doesn't allow without making something real. Uday says, hello, Pablo. I wanted to ask about the new online asset library. Would be able to contribute our GeoNodes, models, and materials in extensions? Because that would be amazing. Yes. So, thing is, the current extensions, the current online assets is supposed to be an extension. That's why the website that if you look at the requests, it's going to an extensions website, because the idea in the future is that people can make extensions just like add-ons or themes, but online assets that are easy to share and so on. And eventually you would be able to have your own. That's the idea. But first step, getting the online essentials. Hey, I managed to reply to something. Yes, I'm useful. Next. Someone's cheating and making many questions. Pedro Paulo Suzuki. Hola, Pablo, ¿cómo estás? Great. Any news on the render? No. I've been dreaming about this question. I knew I have to ask Clema. Give me one more week time, please. About the snap cursor to view. Sometimes we want to add an object exactly where the current view is. The idea is to avoid all the following steps. Add a new camera to the scene, set the new camera. Snap cursor. I think this is more of a... Because to me, snap cursor to view. Like when you set 3D cursor, that is aligned to the view. No? I don't know. Sorry, but I feel like if I Control Shift click or use the tool, it's aligned to the view. Isn't it the same? You see, it's always pointing my way. Or not? Well, it is, but because I'm in perspective view, but it is. Isn't it the same thing, please? Like, why would I add a new camera? Set the camera. Select the camera, snap cursor, delete the camera, set the original camera to the active camera. We already have center view to cursor. And then another question, are there any plans to allow flipping XYZ on tracks to constraint? And then, so you're basically listing a bunch of right-click select posts. Or maybe a roll property to allow arbitrary rotations around the track 2 axis. This, I think is better to ask in the animation and rigging channel. Or maybe get someone from the community to help with this. Are people voting on this? Yeah, 3 votes. No. Sorry, I'm not... sounds like... I mean, are there any plans? Your question is, are there any plans? That I don't think so at the moment. The animation and rigging team is focusing on the animation layers, action layers, that are planned for a while, and they've been a bit of on stop now because of the online assets that is taking time from one of the main developers. When are we getting Caminandos 4? Yeah, I know you added this just so I just like, oh nice, I'm gonna... No, the UV render pass though, I will ask again. Nick says, why do you always open videos in a new tab instead of full screen? Well, because this is the window, right? But the window actually goes different places. So what you actually see my camera here, my screen is Quad HD, and the live stream is Full HD. So I have places around. If I play something in full screen, it will show. It will, yeah, it's not gonna be centered. That's why. Thank you for the snow. Oh my god, someone just said thank you for the stream. Thank you so much. That's so kind. Hello Pablo, hope you're doing well. I was wondering if we had a controller kind of thing that was in Blender Game Engine into Geometry now, just for fun to play around. Also, do you think it would be a good idea if we have a separate engine just for NPR rendering? No, I don't think we should need another engine. Imagine having to make something for EEVEE, for cycles, and for NPR. I think it should be try to integrate it as much as possible in the current ones. Because we still don't have very easy ways to preview different render engines and try to layer them and view layers properly. Next, Colin, hey, CM Basnets. Hola Pablo, this is the first time caught this show live. Just want to say that I really appreciate you doing the show all the time, rain or shine. Thank you so much. Right now there is no rain, but there is a ton of yeah, light. It's been 30 degrees today in, wow, it's really going to the beyond land. 30 degrees today. One thing that I would love to see implemented for Blender 6 is to have the tree view finally exposed to Python. I wish before that exposed to Python so that add-on developers such as myself can use them. Is there any plans to finally expose it? Yes, there are plans. It's just not easy, apparently. The main issue is, I read you're a developer, you could try to contribute. The main issue is, one, you have to deprecate the previous one, right? Or not. But how do you implement drag and drop, right? Like the new tree view allows drag and drop. How do you implement, how do you define if something can be dragged into something or not? How do you define if something can be nested or not? Like there's a few open questions with this. It's not a one-to-one replacement of the UI list because UI list can't do many things. Drag and drop, nested elements, and so on. So it is planned, hopefully way before 6.0, just not yet. But I mean, we are on road with this. The part of the roadmap of Blender UI team is to get feature parity between UI list and tree views, and that I'm happy to announce that we successfully got there last week. I think we discussed that in the module meeting. Now UI lists and tree views, except for the Python API, are feature parity. Even better, the tree views are actually better, it has better things, but no API yet. So without the feature parity to look forward to, now there is the API only. By the way, you definitely won't remember, but the first time I saw you IRL was when I tripped on the stairs and spilled my drink all over the floor at Beacon 22. Imagine my embarrassment when I looked behind to see that the witness this horrible blunder. I am reminded of this every time I watch BlenderToday. Wow, you tripped on the stairs and you spilled a drink all over the floor. I mean, if it helps you, I don't really remember that. So actually you are, to me, you're, oh, maybe if I see you in person, I would remember, huh, you're the one. No, but I don't, actually, sorry, I don't remember. Blender conferences to me are a big blur. Meeting way too many people in 3 days. So, but I know your nickname. You contributed. Yeah, we shown a feature from you today, no? I think. So I know you. I know better nicknames than faces. Okay, so time to wrap up. Thank you so much for staying until the end. It's been a lovely day. We have so many. Wait. Now I need to do the outro. There you go. So now, so I add the time. Hopefully I'm gonna get the timing right for this one as soon as this episode ends. So thank you so much for staying until the end. I hope you enjoy the second to last week of improvements in Blender 5.2 LTS. This will be one of those episodes that releases that people are gonna stick with for a long time. And there might be new things coming even. I hope not, because there will be more work for us. But I heard we might get grease pencil improvements. Something to do with the fill tool, maybe, hopefully. So next week is a beta. The week after is when we meet again, right? That would be June already. Gee, June 2nd. No, June 2nd. It's June 9. June 9. 2 days before the World Cup starts. Oh my gosh. June 9. I'll see you again in there. And we will be talking about what's new in Blender 5.2 and Blender 5.3, because that would be 1 week after the release. Although I hope we can focus on 5.2 to make it as stable as possible. So please, if you find any issues with anything that is being shared in these episodes or outside of them, we will try to get them fixed on time for the release. Other than that, thank you again for staying until the end, and watch your ear holes, because I'm gonna go with Gilles theme. So it's probably louder than other times, is it? I think it was a bit louder than others, so sorry if I didn't warn you. Watch out, and happy blending. See you next time for another episode of Blender Today Live. Bye. Back up. Thank you. Back. Arigato. Comfortable. Grazie mille. Gracias.